Hello there, my lovely Legionnaires. Well, today we were supposed to be celebrating December, but making this video took so long that it's February now. I'm so sorry. But we're here now, and I'm here to show you the true power of the Dice Goblin. Those of you who know me well know that I like to collect sets of Dungeons & Dragons dice. The funny click-clack math rocks are some of my favorite things to collect, since I can support indie artists, get more dice to use when they betray me, and I can satiate the crow instinct to have lots of little shiny things. Trinkets. I get to have little sparkly trinkets. So for you, my lovely Legionnaires, to start off the year and provide you with a new era of art content so long as it takes me 3 months to make, I've turned every single one of my 93 dice sets into D&D characters. That's right, I drew 93 characters for you. Now, I'm not going to be giving you information about each set, mainly because I haven't fleshed out who these 93 characters are yet. No, I decided to ask you on every platform I could for your questions about tabletop gaming, and I'm going to answer all of those questions in this video, alongside telling you a few of my favorite D&D stories. This is going to be a long one, so let's begin. What's my favorite race class combo? I like to play tieflings quite a bit, mainly because I find I really like the idea of a Faustian bargain. I feel like there's a lot you can do narratively with someone who wants something so bad that they're willing to give up their very being for it. There's also the body horror of the transformation that I like. I also just like drawing tails and horns and bright colors. Don't tell me what to do. As for classes, I like to play Paladin. There's a notion of pure blind faith that clerics don't really have, a pure and simple devotion to their oath. I just find that more interesting than Cleric, though I do play a lot of Cleric. I also like when I roll a fistful of dice and I drop the monster's health down by 1/3 in one strike. I like to hit things hard enough that their ancestors feel it, and for things to punch me and feel a brick wall. I am the bane of Justin's existence. Favorite World of Darkness characters you've ever played? I absolutely loved playing Jacob before I ended up shifting him to a Splatterhouse character. He was a Brujah I built to beat ass and be gay, but given that every game I've ever played has totally dissolved due to some absolute fuck shit, I needed to not scrap him forever, but his story was the one I was the most invested in long term. What is my least played tabletop RPG class? Probably Ranger? I don't like to play a class unless I have a really good character idea, and I find that I keep falling into the same stereotypes whenever I play Ranger. I want to try and play them more since I don't hate the class or anything, but I just don't have a lot of original ideas, and therefore I don't go back to it too much. Who's the character most likely to do tax fraud? The Gift Wizard! And this is easy, because canonically, he has. Okay, so I have intense social anxiety, and that makes playing D&D really stressful. Do you have any tips on finding a group and dealing with said anxiety? It's okay if not, I'm just looking for help and I'm too scared to ask Reddit about this. Well, I'm glad that you wanted to come to me. I also have a lot of anxiety problems, so I get it. The easiest way is to feel out the waters with people you trust. More people than you think are huge nerds who want to play D&D, and D&D can be a great game for anybody. I also find that it helps to try and find friends and friends of friends. That way, you have people you trust and you know you can vibe with going in. If you have at least one person you know and are close to going in with strangers, then even if the experience is bad, you have somebody who you know can yoink you out. That's what I did for a few random groups I've joined. If you're having social anxiety, never be afraid to tell your group that you're nervous or anxious and need a little bit of time to breathe. Any group that's worth revisiting every week will give you that space. If they don't, they're not worth playing with. It's pretty simple. What are your thoughts on homebrew classes? Hit or miss? I've played a few. I played a homebrew psionic for the longest time, and they can be fun, but you should always run them by your DMs first, because even if they allow them, they can help make sure that they're a little balanced. You can get some wildly under or overpowered shit. I think that they're cool in general, though, but I'm also pro-homebrew, so that shouldn't be surprising. If you've ever multiclassed, what was your favorite multiclass combination? I don't do it often. I like to have a narrative reason to do it, and also I feel like you can't get the full benefit of some classes, but I've done it a couple of times, and my favorite one to play as was the Assassin Rogue Samurai Fighter. I was a menace to society, and Kazuo ended up being a favorite character of mine. When creating a character, what do you start with first? A design, a class, or what the party needs? Something else if you have it. That totally depends. Usually it's just a concept, just, oh, this story beat seems cool, then it becomes a whole thing. However, I'm also a freak with so many characters, so I typically try to party fill because I have so many. All my characters are inherently vibes-based, though, which I know is wildly unhelpful. Typically when I join a campaign, I just ask what the party needs, and they always try and assure me, like, oh, you don't have to do that, you can play whatever you want. I have a backlog like you wouldn't believe, just tell me what you need. Best way to watch or get into Critical Role. I would start with the Vox Machina cartoon. If that's fun, start watching Campaign 2. Trust me. Has anyone broke the game? Well, in one of my Friday games, our wizard is becoming a silver dragon, and I had hit a point with one of my weapons that I was easily doing 12d6 at the top of every combat in a different game, so no, I don't think so. What is your best advice for someone who is wanting to play classes they're unfamiliar with? Well, there's the obvious. You should always read over the class's full info. Helps to know what you're getting into. You should bookmark that section on either D&D Beyond or in your book, and always keep it handy. I'm a forgetful fuck, so every session I have like 100 tabs open, and I'm always checking them every combat because I am, in fact, very stupid. It's also okay for your character to lean into stereotypes narratively if you're unfamiliar with the intricacies. You pick up on more fun, unique things to do with your future characters, and tropes aren't inherently bad, so to be totally honest, just go in and have fun. Out of all your characters, which 3 would win against an owlbear without preparation, and which 3 would lose with preparation? This is a rad and very funny question. Akari would win every fight immediately. I'm so convinced. She's dropped below half hit points, I think, twice in 4 years. She will run anything's fate easily and without remorse. Fatherstone is also fine. He's pretty good on his feet. Ulrich, I think, is the last, since he's lived out in the woods for a good shit ton of time, and I do believe that he could, in fact, rip an owlbear's head off with his bare hands. As for losing with prep time, probably Gift Wizard, since he will be splat if he misses a single spell. Rosa wouldn't want to hurt it and would simply cry. And truly, I think Isolde would forego the prep just so that she could fistfight it, and that it would probably be a draw. What is your most controversial D&D take? I think that you can, in fact, do whatever you want in your stories. You can talk about racism, you can talk about assault, slavery, gore, whatever, but only if it makes your players comfortable. These are two things in the community that are frequently treated as mutually exclusive, but I think they're perfectly understandable together. I have transgressive elements in my stories, but I will not use them or will write around them when my players tell me that those themes make them uncomfortable or if they feel unsafe at my table. The game's collaborative. If you want to play a Berserk-themed dark fantasy or a game that's more like Kirby, you just find players who want to play that game, not force players to do something that they don't want. If you had to choose between lousy bad D&D and no D&D at all, which would you choose? 100 times out of 100, I would rather have no D&D. I have genuinely been harmed by bad roleplay, and I would rather be playing Minecraft on a Thursday night than be bored, irritated, and or anxious. It's just the way I am. I'm not willing to suffer boredom in someone else's power fantasy when I could be doing literally anything else. Out of your top 5 favorite D&D characters, which ones would translate best into another universe, like Kenshin into One Piece or Sanji into Food Wars? This is another really interesting question. I think if I had to pick, the best ones would be Cordelia into One Piece, obviously because she's a pirate, but I also think her gimmick would be really fun. I'd like to give her a lightning-based devil fruit, I think. Kinda like Enel. Akari into Chainsaw Man. We don't have the time to get into the details on that one. You're gonna just have to trust me. And Ozra into Star Wars because she was originally a mech pilot, fun fact. Ulrich into Warhammer 40k. I've thought about it a lot. I am considering doing it. And Rei into Jujutsu Kaisen. I think his skill set would transfer really interestingly into a cool curse technique. What are my favorite subclasses? In order, I like Armorer Artificer, Zealot Barbarian, Lore Bard, Grave Cleric, Spores Druid, Samurai Fighter, Shadow Monk, Conquest Paladin, Swarmkeeper Ranger, Assassin Rogue, Draconic Sorcerer, Hexblade Warlock, and Conjuration Wizard. The avid players are now profiling me, and you can say whatever this says about me in the comments. I'm fascinated to hear your reads. Have you ever rolled a multi-class character before, and if you haven't, what would be your first? I already answered part of this. I have done it before. 3 times, though, in fact. Kazuo was an Assassin Rogue Samurai Fighter, mentioned that earlier.
His build was sickening. It was violent. I did so much damage per the top of every round. Assassinate was absolutely destructive, and I had a really good weapon. It was monstrous. Ozra was a Forge Cleric Armor Artificer that I played for Crafty's first game. I loved being able to have fuck you AC and hitting fuckers with the Hammer of Dawn in the same game. It rules. Would have recommended it. She would have become truly a monster. I have her level 20 build and it's scary. The third was Dalkara. She was a Storm Herald Barbarian that picked up a level in Paladin because she drank ancient alcohol and saw a god. Literally, she had a conversation with Bahamut. It was rad. I will tell that story later on in this video. Have any of your characters ever seduced a dragon? Actually? Yeah. My first serious character actually fucked a silver dragon that was originally going to be a boss monster. It was really funny. I think she got a buff if I remember right. I don't know. He liked big women. I don't know what to tell you. It was really funny. What's your favorite cleric subclass? I already told you, but I'll elaborate a little bit for you because you asked so nicely. So, I like the narrative implications of being a spooky priest, naturally. There's something very appealing to me about the idea of those who linger on the outskirts of a terrible place, silencing the wails of all those who linger. I also just really like their spells. Bane, Blight, Death Ward, good shit. Eyes of the Grave, Circle of Mortality, great abilities, fun mechanically, fun narratively. I just really like being spooky. What's your favorite type of monster in D&D? I like aberrations! I like gibbering mouthers, I like Slod, I like beholders, I'm a fan of funky things that should not be. It's partly why I am one. If you could choose to play only one race and one class for the rest of your life, what would you choose? Tiefling Paladin to shock no one. It's just the race and the class that I know the best, and that they are my firm comfort zone. I don't know what to tell you. What are some of your favorite parts of world building as a dungeon master? Do you have any resources you'd recommend to someone who hasn't done world building before? I like writing my religion. Creating the 10 glorious goddesses was, I think, the most fun part, because having the religious and moral value of each goddess inform culture from the top down was a really cool process. I also just like reading into stuff like that, just on my own anyway, so I thought that I got some really cool shit out of that. As for resources, I'd recommend the Novel Factory's Ultimate World Building Questionnaire, World Anvil, and wbqotd over on Tumblr. They provide you a lot of fun things to think about and a means to write it all down. I'll put links to those in the description. Favorite Paladin subclass? I told you! Conquest! I'll elaborate again because all of you have just been so nice and so polite. Narratively, the thing that ties me to it is that I played one for the longest I've ever been in. Akari was a Conquest Paladin for most of the game, but became Oathbreaker eventually. I will also tell that story a little later. I loved using Spiritual Weapon, Curse, Conquering Presence, etc. Her ties to her goddess are powerful, heartbreaking, love playing her, still love playing her, it rules, it's great. Is there any choice you've made in character as a player you've majorly regretted afterwards? Oh yeah, for sure. I made a bunch of choices for Kazuo I thought would have been good for him, and ultimately I think I ended up just kind of making a lot of bad choices. I fell into some really bad habits, and I've tried to break them since. I wish I could go back and redo that whole campaign. Do you have any PCs you wish you could go back and make better? Not from an optimization standpoint, but from a character building, role-playing standpoint. Oh my god, yes! I think I'd remake Gray from the ground up if I had the opportunity. I think his narrative could have been reworked, could have made way better. I was so new to the game at the time. I'm a fucking moron. I could have done his whole story better. I ended up fucking over a bunch of my party members. Oh my god, I have regrets about him daily. Can a Mastermind Rogue College of Eloquence Bard work as a build? My brain said, ha, lawyer. So, yeah, I think so. From the Ravenloft book, would you rather play as a Dhampir, a Hexblood, or a Reborn? Reborn! I have a Reborn character already that I have in the wings. His name is Artorias. I've drawn him a couple of times on stream. I'm very interested in how dying changes a person fundamentally. I have a lot of takes about that. We will talk about those later. I think there's a lot of fun things that you can do with that kind of, like, archetype, with that kind of story. I just think it's really cool. Can you use an enlarge reduce spell on a Rune Knight fighter so they can go one size bigger after they use Giant Might? I don't know if the book says you can, but I would let you, because I think a kaiju fight would kick ass. Which race do you think are the most underutilized or not played much for PCs? A lot of the monster races, honestly. I think people are a little more averse to be things that don't look like people or things that aren't conventionally attractive, but I cannot stress to you how much I enjoy being slime. Would you be fine if someone picked you to be their warlock patron? If so, what patron type? Archfey, Great Old One, etc. Someone did! Someone did! I'm gonna put a link. I'm gonna put a link to their post, but somebody on Tumblr tagged me that they did. They did in fact make a character that's a warlock patron of mine, and I was touched, and I actually cried. I have a homebrew warlock pact that I will also link in the description, by the way. But if you want to be book legal and you don't want to do my crazy homebrew shit, it's Great Old One. Shoutouts to them. That was great. That made my fucking day. Could you use the spell Animal Shapes to turn the insects from insect plague into other animals, like elephants? I don't think so, but again, that fucking rules. I appreciate your creativity, but I think this is a create water doesn't work in the lungs kind of situation. Are there any Genasi variations you'd like to see happen? Anything outside of the basic 4 elements of water, earth, fire, and air? Yes! Oh my god, yes, 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 yes! I would love to see wood, metal, and or lightning Genasi. I think that'd be fucking cool. Just like a broader scale of elementals. I think that would be really, really fucking sick. If you could give a DM one module out of all of them to run, after which they lose the ability to run any other module, what one module would you recommend above all else? Water Deep Dragon Heist. I have both run it and played it, and it rules. You get so much freedom to do funky bullshit. You get so much freedom to run funky bullshit with your players and your characters. It's just great. It's got a good balance of combat, roleplay. It's the best. I'm having the best time with it. I had the best time playing it. I can't recommend you Waterdeep Dragon Heist enough. 1. Do you like using rolling with emphasis, a custom rule? Not really. I think there's a lot of different systems that do stuff like this, and it's a better place for it. I think it's cool, it's just not for me. Do you think sorcerers should be constitution casters? Yes! And I am tired of people saying that they shouldn't. Shadow Wizard Money Gang? Or are you more of a hit really hard type player? I love casting Smite! I can do both! Favorite race to make a character for? Genasi, actually. As much as I love making tieflings, my close second are Genasi because there's so much detail you can add to that character type, both narratively and, like, visually. They're just really fun. I'm getting to really enjoy them. I've always been somewhat stuck when it comes to making D&D characters not feel the same. How do you differentiate yours? I'm gonna teach you my trick. I don't make characters. I flesh out a concept. Most of the time I think of a vague idea of what kind of concept I'd like to explore and expand from there. I'll use Ulrich, for example. He was made from a desire to create something that would be like a fantasy doomslayer. From there, I thought about what kind of person would be drawn to that kind of violence, have that kind of personality, use that kind of weaponry. Drew him, realized I gave him scars, filled in why he had those, etc., on and on and on and on and on. Just look at them from the perspective that you want to try a new idea entirely, instead of the idea that you're making a character. Have you ever been a DM or a game master? No! What classes, races would you make your World of Darkness characters if you were to play them in D&D? Lots of really good questions today. Jeff is a half-elf assassin rogue. Jake is a Dhampir shadow monk. Luke would be a half-orc totem barbarian, and I think Val would be a tiefling fae warlock. Most overrated and underrated classes and races, in your opinion. Not trying to start a fight, you swear. Alright, if you promise we're not trying to start fights. For overrated, I'd say Warlock and Elf. I played Warlock long term and I really liked it, but I don't really get all of the hype that surrounds it within the LGBT community. Don't, shut up! Don't start with me, you know! I know all of you are out there! Underrated, I'd say Monk and Kobolds. I think you can do a lot of fun things with Kobolds, and given that Steven is Kobold Master, I've seen all the cool things you can do with Kobolds. Do you have a favorite D&D character from everyone you've DM'd for, whether or not you've DM'd for that character? If so, would you like to share them, or any if you're comfortable with answering any particular favorites? Yes! I'm going to gush about my players! I don't think I have any favorites, to be honest. I've just been gifted with having a wide pool of players, and they've almost all been wonderful. Every experience that I've ever had running for my friends has been good, and the ones I've had running for outsiders have been at least fun. I love running for other people. I love being a DM, and I love watching what they do with their characters and getting to help them have the experience that makes them so happy. Quite a few of my players have come to me years after and talked to me about how much they still love their characters and how happy they were with their stories, and that shit makes me so happy. Keeps my skin clear, my fucking lungs pure. I'm so happy about it. Have you adapted a video game character into a D&D character? Yup, Ulrich was my attempt at taking a swing at a Doomslayer Master Chief type character. I've kind of done this where I've been like, I like this archetype, I'm going to make him now. What was your first horror D&D adventure? Running, it was a one-shot that I've called Oh Light that I would love to run for the channel at some point. I think you guys would really like it. I really liked it. Playing, I think it was a one-shot Crafty ran? My friends are babies. They incorporate horror elements. They don't do much raw horror, which kind of sucks because I like raw horror, but everybody's babies. Do you have a personal favorite D&D character of your own, or a couple favorites, if more than one? Honestly, I think it's Akari. I've played her the longest, so I've developed quite the bond to her. I love her so much, and I'm so happy to have been given the opportunity to join that campaign. If she's number 1, then the top 5 after her in order would be Father Stone, Ray, Ozra, and the Gift Wizard.
Quite a few of you asked me to share some D&D stories, so I thought I would do the second half of this video by picking a few that I thought were particularly interesting or funny. The first one that I wanted to tell you was about the Session of Champions challenge that we had to re-record because I don't remember it. So a fun fact about me is that I have a really bad anxiety disorder. And I used to have medication that I took specifically for panic attacks. I don't remember what kind. Now I take propranolol, which is just a beta blocker. It lowers my heart rate. But back then it was something stronger. I don't remember exactly what. And the thing was that I would pass out whenever I took it. It had just knocked me out. I'd fall asleep. Made me really drowsy. But this day, I was determined that I was going to play despite it. So I did that. I tried to fight through it, and I managed to stay awake. And I played the whole 2-hour session. And I played it so well that nobody knew that I was apparently zooted out of my mind. Because all I remember is that we were chatting before the session. I was sitting in the living room, and the next thing I remember, it was the morning, and I was in bed, a floor up. I asked my mom, and she said that she had to drag me upstairs to get me to sleep because I physically couldn't stand up. And I didn't remember any bit of the session that I had played. Crafty said that he could put it up or that he could have me listen to it, and I chose not to because I have a thing about not being in control of my body, and the idea of listening to myself do something that I didn't remember, whether it was bad or not, made me really uncomfortable. So I was like, hey, I'm really sorry, can we just re-record this session? Because I didn't remember it. And I also apparently did this with another game during a session of Waterdeep, and I thought that Brooke, Justin, and Ben were gaslighting me for like a year because they kept telling me things that happened during this session, and I didn't remember it. I didn't remember it. I was like, no, this didn't happen. I don't remember when this happened. And eventually I confronted them about it, and I'm like, I don't remember this. Are you guys fucking with me? And they just looked at me and they're like, what the fuck do you mean you don't remember this? You were here for it. We played this game when we were at your house. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And we had to realize that it was because it happened again. I had to take my anxiety meds and I forgot. I forgot all about it. I also promised I'd tell you about Kara, so I'll tell you that story next. That was a game I played at a local game store before I moved out of the Void. So if any of the guys from the game store see this, I hope you guys are still having Wednesday night sit-ins. I hope we got the cleric out of the whale. And I hope you guys are still enjoying your time. I had a blast. So anyway, Kara seeing God. We finished a difficult request, aka the request where my warlock died, and we were stopping in a tavern for a little break, and the Goliath that I had made to replace her, Dalkara, who goes by Kara, who was a Tundra Storm Barbarian, it's a little important, asked the bartender for the strongest shit he had, and he's like the strongest? And she's like, yeah? So he pulls out this cask with writing on it that was so old, it gave our wizard a psychic headache trying to read it. So she pays the 25 gold to drink from it, slams it. I had to roll a con save, which I expected, and then I had to roll a whiz save, which I didn't expect, and I passed them both. Kara ran to the bathroom to avoid throwing up, and when she opens the door, she was not in the bar anymore. She was standing in this huge stone grand hall surrounded on all sides by thrones that were like 10 times as big as her. And she's greeted by a man a little taller than her, covered in what looked like liquid metal. He welcomed her, extended a hand, and asked her to help him. I remember panicking, and I looked at our DM, and he chuckles and says, "You get the feeling that no thank you is a valid option." So I sat there, and I thought about it, and Kara, being the soft-hearted mom that she was, she, wouldn't turn down the opportunity to help somebody who needed her. So she says yes. She wakes up on the floor of the bar, surrounded by the party, and a silver symbol of Bahamut now embedded into her forehead, which was really cool. And immediately after that, we talked to the bartender, and he said that he had no idea where the cask came from, because it was brought in by the owner. We asked who the owner was, and we were told he was one of the masked lords of Waterdeep. So I never got any answers to that, and I have periodic moments where I'll be sitting at my desk, and am devastated that I'll never get to know what the fuck that was about. When we left that bar, we got into an encounter with a group of black slod, because you're a dick, and you know it. If you're listening, you know you're an asshole. And Kara pulls a prayer bead of summon planar ally, and begged Bahamut to help us, half because I wanted to see if he'd actually answer. And you never know a real fear, like when the dungeon master goes, "Hang on a minute, I have to go get a bigger mini," and he walks into the other room and comes back out and puts an adult silver dragon on the table, who then proceeded to eat those slod like pretzel sticks. And so for those of you who don't know, summon planar ally means that you have to do something for them once you've summoned them. And he wanted us to go help save his son, which Kara agreed to do. And that's the other thing I regret having to leave that game. I hope his little boy got rescued. I hope that was something the party ended up doing. What's another good story? Oh, I can talk about the fact that Kara replaced another character. I mentioned that. Same game, obviously. I was playing Verena, a human hexblade warlock. I love her. I made her a drow now. Anyway, we were in a dungeon that had once been a crypt for Kelemvor, and listen, it all happened really fast. We were running from a mummy lord. We planned to duck into one of the back rooms for a moment so we could catch our breath, set up before he came underneath the door as sand. And Verena opens the wrong door. On the other side was I think it was a Death Knight. I don't remember the stat block. But it had Drain Life, where it does what we in the business call spicy necrotic damage, which means that it drains your max hit points. He rolled high, and she was a spellcaster, so there was nothing I could do. He grabbed her by the face and drained her max HP to 0. Killed her on the spot. Everyone at the table comforted me. Our cleric offered a reincarnation. I turned it down. I wasn't comfortable leaving her race up to chance. Everybody was great. Ben, our DM, felt terrible. Different Ben than the one that's in my streams. He felt horrible. They were so sweet. They were all just staring at me in pure fear. I hope they're wonderful dudes. I was fine, so I thought, until I got in the car to go home. And about halfway through the drive home, I just started crying. I felt so bad. It sucks. It sucks to work that hard and to lose a character. It really sucks. It hurts. It makes you genuinely sad. I also have a bunch of horror stories. A bunch of people ask me for horror stories, and I don't want to tell them. The main reason being, I have a pretty decent sized platform now, and a lot of them were in small private groups or with people that I used to consider friends. And I don't want to put the private situations on blast. It's not really my place to make a big deal about those situations. But I can do something for you. I'll tell you why those games failed, not necessarily the stories themselves. Most of them boiled down to some kind of failure to communicate. One of them was because I failed to understand why something I was doing was wrong, and it caused a bunch of problems. I ended up really setting back the rest of the party. I had some serious main character problems by accident. I didn't mean to do it. But I just wasn't paying enough attention to the rest of the party, and I've remedied it since, a lot of people have said. Another was someone using really triggering content without talking to the rest of the party, being overly antagonistic in character to the point that it made the game unplayable. A few of them are from people being aggressive DMs. One trying to run a meat grinder and then threw a tantrum when I solved their puzzles. Another was a DM who didn't listen to our boundaries when we were uncomfortable. One of them was a DM so spiteful that he told that I had to completely remake a character to avoid them. I've had lots of bad D&D. I've had 10 times the good D&D. So instead of telling you horror stories, I'm gonna talk about my friends. That's right, idiots. I'm talking about all of you and how much fun I had in your games. Get got, stupid. I wanted to start with the games that I'm playing in that you can listen to. Namely Star Wars: The First Resistance, which is a podcast that you can listen to wherever pods are cast and also on YouTube. Our boy Justin, is a wonderful dungeon master who was blessed by the Force with the gift of foresight. It's really fucking funny. I keep watching new Star Wars shows with him and Brooke, and he keeps putting his head in his hands and crying because he'll tell us that he's been planning something for months, and now it's canon in front of his eyes. He is Cassandra, cursed to see the future and have nobody believe it, while he is constantly bludgeoned by Apollo's dodgeball. That game wouldn't be anything without him, Ben, Brooke, and Silver. We have a kind of synergy that feels so rare. I feel so blessed to be in that game. On God, I think if one of us had to leave the podcast, we'd probably just start a new campaign. I'm so serious. We couldn't go on without one another. And we've recently added a new player as of recording. Our dearest Red Angel is playing with us now, and I'm having so much fun having her here. I wanted to tell you, of course, that if you don't know a lot about Star Wars, that's totally fine, because I didn't know very much about Star Wars, and I'm here. They keep saying names and things at me, and every so often now I get to go, I know who that is. And then they pat me on the head like I'm 6 years old and are like, good, we're so proud of you, so proud that you're listening. And you know what? I am proud that I'm listening, so it's fine. Justin is also constantly tormented in our Friday game, Elemental Wars. This one's a personal game. You can't watch this one anywhere. But that one is 100% his fault. Because if Justin had a nickel for every time he gave us the chance between wishes and something horrible happening to us, and we still got the wishes, he'd have 2 nickels. The first time was when we got our hands on a deck of many things. Our ship was plummeting from thousands of feet in the air, the context of which I'd love to make into an automatic someday. I think that'd be really cool. And our bard, played by Caden Monroe, drew from the deck in a desperate hope for us and pulled the fucking moon. For those of you who don't play on the wild side, the moon gives you 1d3 wishes when you pull it. We got 2. The first was to save our ship. The second we used to restore the island we had sunk back to its former glory. That's a long story. Maybe another day. Brief aside, actually, in the one-shot that we played with other characters so that we could get rid of the deck, we played a 20th level one-shot. to get rid of the deck of many things. I drew the Fates, which lets you make a change to history, and that's why in that setting, Mind Flayers don't exist. My wizard just wished that they never made it to the material plane, and Justin's reaction to that one was hilarious. You never know how many things Illithid contribute to until you have to fucking delete them. The second was when we swiped an Ifriti bottle pretty recently. Sure enough, we gave it the good old polish, Justin rolls the dice, and we got another fucking wish. The way he puts his head in his hands and the groan of utter and complete defeat is really fucking funny. If he doesn't want us to get wishes, he should really just stop giving them to us. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. The genie was also Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, I guess. He turned out to be evil, but that's kind of to be expected. Most Ifriti are evil. This is the game that I've played the longest, Elemental Wars, and it feels wild to think that we're closer to the end of it than the beginning. We've planned for the very last session to be in person at this really beautiful hotel, and I'm not ready to sob like that. We keep joking. We keep talking about, like, what are we gonna do for Campaign 2? What characters are we gonna play for Campaign 2? And Justin was like, Campaign 1's not even over. Do you guys, like, not like my game? And I told him, I'm like, no, I keep thinking about Campaign 2 because the idea of stopping playing D&D with these wonderful people who I've played with for years now makes me so actually sad that I have to be like, no, there'll be a Campaign 2. We're gonna play something else after this. It'll be great. It'll be really fun. I have to think about that because if I don't, then I'll cry. And I refuse to play without Silverbrook, Steven, and Caden. Because they are wonderful, and I love all of them to death. Looking forward to Rabble becoming a dragon, ascending to her true form. One of the other current private games I play, Wild Wild West, is DM'd by Brooke, who is editing this. This game has had a huge number of player shifts, but the current players are me, Dr. Crafty, Steven, Boonslayer, and now, one Alex Roshan. You may know him as the voice of Kane from The Amazing Digital Circus. I know him from commentaries. I'm playing a paladin again, but Father Stone's a very different character from the kinds that I normally play. He's a follower of the Traveler, so he's a little bit more of an agent of chaos than the more serious characters I lean towards. I love him so much. I want to do a video talking about him in depth at a later date because I love him with all of my heart. He's just really fun, and I don't want to get too much into it. But I really like the dynamic he has with Crafty's character, Conjurno. He's very much an older brother to the younger brother relationship, despite the fact that Khan's, I think, twice as old as he is, if not more. I absolutely adore his relationship with his husband, our former wizard, played by Justin. The joke that I have is that in the other game, in Elemental Wars, Kel, said wizard, was trying to kidnap my character's wife. So in Elemental Wars, I hate Kel. In Wild Wild West, I'm married to him. And we also have the bit that in Brooke's game, I'm dating her husband, and in Justin's game, I'm dating his wife. So I'm dating them both under the other's nose. It's really funny. The last game I wanted to talk about is one you can watch live, namely Dr. Crafty's Assault on Artificiniland. The character I chose to play, the Gift Wizard, is a total departure from my usual archetype. The story of him is pretty short and simple, so I can tell you that. So while we were vacationing at Disney, we saw this huge gift shop that has a front sculpted to look like a wizard. Brooke, can you put up in the corner, like nearby here, can you put up a picture of the Gift Wizard? So we kept calling it the Gift Wizard, and I decided that would make a funny D&D character, so I decided I wanted to make a funny little plasmoid that sold Artificini knockoffs. I couldn't get over the idea of this short little huckster made of goo with his funny voice, so I decided I was gonna be the party joke this time. I was gonna be funny man. I'm always the face, I'm always the leader. I wanted to be funny. And I gotta tell ya, disintegrating a clown with shrinks your dick and smalls your ass, get fucked, loser, penis blast, is probably the funniest thing I'll ever do. I don't know. I can join Justin with having my magnum opus being something I made on accident because I thought it would be funny, because I was also terrified that the viewers would think that he was wicked annoying. And no, he's the most popular character in the campaign. I keep getting asked to do his voice on stream. Listen, I loved the Gift Wizard, and I'm glad that everybody else loves the Gift Wizard, but like, I just didn't expect it, you know? I was really scared, and I'm glad I was scared for nothing. Makes me so happy.
And with all of that, all 93 characters. I had so much fun drawing these, and even more fun talking about D&D with all of you. This was fun, and I can't wait to make this an even 100. I got a few sets since, and I'm getting really close. This is probably one of the biggest art projects I've ever done, but it's definitely going to be outdone later this year with a few other projects I have in the works. I'm so excited to give you bigger and better art projects, more art content, all kinds of new fun things. But for now, you'll have to settle for this. Goodbye!